Well, the era of Ben Bernanke is most likely coming to an end, and that means speculation over who will take over the most important financial job in the world is heating up. Right now, it looks like the race to become Federal Reserve Chairman has come down to economist Larry Summers versus current Fed Vice Chair Janet Yellen. We have Chief Fed reporter John Hilsenrath here with us, for once in the flesh rather than from a distance, to give us the lowdown on these two very different characters. Good morning, John.
Hey, Michael. How you doing?
Good stuff. Listen, I was so struck by the story. Of course, you know, I've had my own encounters with these guys, and they're really very different people. And I just wonder, you know, how that's going to play out.
Different personalities. Let's start with some of the similarities. They're both PhD economists. They're both respected ones, Ivy League pedigrees. And they're both liberal, politically.
So policy-wise, is not likely to be a huge difference.
But you've got Yellen, who is a Fed insider, basically. She's spent most of her career working inside the Fed as the president of the San Francisco Fed, the -- 2 right now, previously a governor. She's done every job you could do at the Fed except for chairman. And the institutions probably would be pretty comfortable with a transition to her. Summers is an Obama insider.
Right.
Obama's advisors are all Summers guys. They were all close to him. Obama knows him, is comfortable with him. Even since he's left the White House in 2010, he's been back many times, 13 visits in just the last couple of years. So the Obama people could be more comfortable with Summers, and so we're going to see a real contest.
How does the horse trading work in that sense? So the Fed's obviously going to sort of presumably push forward its view, or is it too difficult for them politically to actually express a view?
I think the Fed stays out of it, which gives Summers an upper hand because the people closest to the president are pushing for him behind the scenes. But it really comes down, I think, to some political questions, right? So some of Obama's people are close to Summers, but he's not popular on Capitol Hill. So the question that Obama is going to have to confront as he considers whether to choose Summers is, does he want to spend political capital on this guy? Because we're already seeing women's groups speaking out against him. Summers has a reputation. He lost his job as the president of Harvard because of comments he made about women. And obviously conservatives aren't going to be big fans of his. So if the president nominates him, he's going to have to fight to get him confirmed. With Yellen, you have a different character. She's already been confirmed to the #2 job. Women in the Senate would likely be a big advocate for her. It's a political win for Obama if he chooses her, and a political fight if he chooses Summers. And we're going to have to see what kind of decision he makes.
Not to take away from obviously the sheer talent of the man, but I mean, some of my encounters with Summers, he's a pretty prickly guy sometimes, and he wasn't always friendly to us wire reporters buzzing around him. Whereas Janet Yellen comes across as a very nice lady. I'm thinking of that in the context of testimony before the Senate or the House, and we saw this last week. Bernanke seems to have worked that down to something of a fine art. He got a lot of accolades during those appearances. Imagining Larry Summers answering some of those not always the most intelligent questions and not having to resist the
well, so temptation. I mean, I think there's that problem, there's that issue for him, and then there's also the issue of how he would manage the Fed itself, and that's a pretty big issue. The Fed is a very consensus-oriented institution. There's 12 regional bank presidents that are very independent people. 6 other board governors, and one of the jobs which Bernanke has been very good at is getting everybody to move largely in the same direction, building consensus. And so there's a question of what kind of job Summers would do managing that kind of consensus. I think that's another issue that the president has to consider. But there's also some misperceptions about these two people, which we consider on this question of Summers' prickliness. He's very well aware of that criticism. Presumably, he would come into the job, with some sense of the need for him to address it. There's also the question of Yellen, something we mentioned in this story. She's a tough lady. She's not really a pushover. And we've talked to staff who say that she's a pretty demanding boss. So. I think it would be incorrect to presume that she's soft pedals over everything. She's a real tough lady, and I think she would handle the job with some authority.
Well, there's going to be a lot of eyes on this as it goes forward. Thanks a lot, John.
Okay.